Friday night feels like it, right? That said, may I suggest that you go to bed kind of early, hydrate, eat your Wheaties in the morning, maybe put off the Friday night cocktail to make it a Saturday night cocktail this week, if at all. I'm only saying that because tomorrow is going to be very busy. Saturday is going to be very busy. I said at the top of the show, there are more than 1,200 protests planned for tomorrow in all 50 states. I stand corrected. It is more than 1,300 protests planned in all 50 states. It's expected to be the largest single day of protest since Donald Trump took office. Joining us now is Ezra Levin. He's co-founder of Indivisible, which is one of the groups that is promoting these events tomorrow. Ezra, thanks very much for joining us tonight. You were here just a couple of 3 weeks ago talking about the earliest idea for April 5th being sort of a hub for events all over the country and in Washington. How has the organizing gone? What has the response been?
What if I told you that tomorrow could mark the largest protest day in America since Trump took office, and almost no one's talking about it? Over 1,300 demonstrations are erupting across every single state, not just in big cities or blue states, but in rural towns, conservative strongholds, and places you'd least expect. Why now? Why April 5th? And what is pushing everyday Americans, teachers, veterans, students, retirees, to suddenly rise up and say, enough? This isn't just politics. This is a breaking point. So, what exactly is everyone protesting? And why should you care? Let's break it down. You might want to call it an early night tonight. Seriously, get some rest, drink a bit more water than usual, maybe swap out that Friday cocktail for a Saturday one this time. Because tomorrow, it's going to be intense. Across the country, Americans are preparing for what could be the largest single day of protest since Donald Trump first took office. Over 1,300 separate protest events are set to take place in every single state. Red. States, blue states, cities, suburbs, rural communities, you name it. The message is clear, it's urgent, and it's coming from the ground up. So what exactly is happening? And what's behind this wave of mobilization? Just a few weeks ago, April 5th was a date that barely made a blip on the national radar. Organizers had only started floating the idea of a day of action. There wasn't much certainty around whether it would resonate, but what's unfolded since then has exceeded even the most hopeful expectations. At the center of this momentum is a group called Indivisible, a grassroots organization that began forming in the aftermath of Trump's election. It's built on the belief that democracy only works when people are engaged, especially at the local level. Ezra Levin, the co-founder of Indivisible, recently reflected on how far things have come in just a few weeks. When the idea was first floated, the hope was to spark interest and maybe inspire a few coordinated rallies. But now, it's snowballed into something far bigger, a truly nationwide movement. One of the sparks that helped fuel this surge came out of Wisconsin. Voters there turned out in large numbers and delivered a critical win in a high-stakes state supreme court race. That win wasn't just a data point. It was proof that public mobilization could actually shape the direction of the country. That electoral victory lit a fire.
Just a couple of 3 weeks ago, talking about the earliest idea for April 5th being sort of a hub for events all over the country and in Washington. How has the organizing gone? What has the response been compared to what you expected?
Gosh, Rachel, it's been incredible. Can I just say it has been incredible. We knew when we announced 3 weeks ago on the show that this was going to be the week where we saw an election in Wisconsin. We were cautiously optimistic about that election in Wisconsin for the Supreme Court. We didn't know we were going to kick Elon Musk's butt all across the state, but we were cautiously optimistic. We also didn't know that Cory Booker was going to give this incredible speech, inspiring all of us and telling us that he was taking a stand in response to pushes from his own constituents. We also didn't know that Donald Trump was going to launch a global attack on the economies of not our economy, but the global economy. This confluence of events, this sense that they are overreaching so much, and they're...
Then came Senator Cory Booker's now viral speech, an emotional, powerful response to growing unrest from his own constituents. His words weren't just inspiring, they showed that pressure from the public was starting to influence lawmakers, and layered on top of all that was Donald Trump himself, whose latest rhetoric and policy threats once again triggered alarm bells. not just at home, but globally. His recent threats to global markets and domestic programs weren't just provocative, they seemed designed to provoke chaos. For many, it was the last straw. There's a growing sense among Americans that institutions, whether universities, law firms, or corporations, have failed to stand up for core democratic values. And in that vacuum, regular citizens are stepping in. The result? A day of action that's turning into a national moment. What's even more striking is the geographical spread. You might expect dozens of events in places like California, New York, and Washington State. And yes, those states have large turnouts planned. But this isn't just about traditional liberal strongholds. 17 events are planned in Montana, 14 in Alaska, dozens across places that aren't known for protest culture. And this is key. It's not just one symbolic rally per state. Many states will see multiple events, sometimes 10, 20, or even more. That's the scope we're talking about. And these aren't all being driven by large organizations. A huge part of this movement is powered by individuals, people who may never have attended a protest before, much less organized one. They looked around, saw silence, and decided they wouldn't stay silent themselves.
The theme under which this is sort of loosely organized is hands off. I've seen people use all sorts of different types of phrasing around the different types of protests that they're going to be part of, and it seems like it's lots of different groups who are organizing, and in some cases it's no groups, it's just individual people who are coming out with their friends and neighbors. But it seems like the hands-off messaging is the most overarching phrase that we're going to hear tomorrow, and the most overarching idea, right?
One of the beautiful things about this is it's meeting people where they are. We're all coming to this for a different reason. We can say, hands off the Department of Education, hands off our Social Security, hands off our Medicaid, hands off trans kids, hands off our communities, hands off our civil rights, hands off our democracy. Different things are bringing different people to this fight. That's good. That's okay. We can all come together and say no. And that's what we're going to see tomorrow.
Yeah, Popular Front. Very, 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 very big tent. If for some reason you don't like what Donald Trump is doing to the country, there's a very large tent that is open to you.
What ties all these actions together is a shared message that's captured in one powerful phrase: hands off. It's not just a slogan, it's a rallying cry. Hands off public education, hands off Social Security, hands off Medicaid, hands off trans kids, hands off civil rights, hands off democracy. Different people are coming into this movement with different motivations. And that's not just okay, it's exactly what makes it work. This isn't about ideological purity or one narrow issue. It's about standing up against government, overreach, and erosion of fundamental rights wherever they show up. This is what organizers call a big tent moment. If you're uncomfortable with what's happening in this country, whether it's about the economy, justice, education, healthcare, or basic civil rights, there's a place for you in this movement. And yes, this is driven by frustration, but more than that, it's driven by hope. The belief that if enough people show up, we can actually move the needle. Not someday, not years from now, but now. Many of the people leading these events aren't seasoned activists. They're teachers, parents, clerks, students, veterans. They've watched as the institutions they trusted stayed silent, and they've decided, if no one else will speak up, I will. So what happens on April 5th won't just be about numbers. It'll be a test of civic strength. A reminder that democracy isn't something that just lives in the halls of Congress or the courts. It lives in communities, and its health depends on people showing up when it matters most. Will this turn into lasting change? That remains to be seen. But for now, what's certain is that people are refusing to be passive. They're organizing, they're showing up, they're saying no in 1,000 different ways, with signs, voices, and actions. If you're planning to take part, be prepared, be safe, stay peaceful, and know that you're not alone. If you haven't made plans yet, maybe take a look at what's happening in your town. You might find it's exactly the time to step in, and if you can't physically attend, that's okay. You can still support, share information, talk to friends, donate, raise awareness. Movements don't just grow in the streets, they grow through conversation, through solidarity, through persistence. So yes, tonight might be a good time to rest.
17 events across the state of Montana, 14 across Alaska. This is everywhere. We're not just talking about one event in every state. We're talking about multiple, sometimes dozens of events. And these are normal, everyday people who are saying, hey, I've had enough. I've seen institutions fall. I've seen the universities. I've seen businesses. I've seen law firms not stand up, not support our liberal democracy. So what am I going to do as an individual? Well, I'm going to do my part. I'm going to show up. That's what tomorrow is about. And it's, gosh, Rachel, it is inspiring to see so many people hop on board this train.
The theme under which this is sort of loosely organized is hands off. I've seen people use all sorts of different types of phrasing around the different types of protests that they're going to be part of, and it seems like it's lots of different groups who are organizing, and in some cases it's no groups, it's just individual people who are coming out with their friends and neighbors. But it seems like the hands-off messaging is the most overarching phrase that we're going to hear tomorrow, and the most overarching idea, right?
One of the beautiful things about this is it's meeting people where they are. We're all coming to this for a different reason. We can say, hands off the Department of Education, hands off our Social Security, hands off our Medicaid, hands off trans kids, hands off our communities, hands off our civil rights, hands off our democracy. Different things are bringing different people to this fight. That's good. That's okay.
Because tomorrow, Americans will take to the streets in one of the most significant days of civic engagement we've seen in years. Not for a party, not for a politician, but for the principles that hold this country together. Tomorrow, America shows up.